Good morning, everybody. Bom dia, bonjour. As far as that French goes. For those that don't know me, my name is Will Anders. I am the president and board chair here at the Brazilian American Chamber of Commerce. It's a great pleasure to welcome all of you here today. Again, for how many years now we've been doing this? At least two. But for 5 years now, we welcome Abrinq here. Together we love Together Brazil. We are happy to welcome all of you here this morning as we host an event for Abrinq's latest publication, ESG Agenda and the Social Impact in Companies. Obviously, the term ESG has become somewhat controversial from time to time, but I think for all of us who live in this world, we know how important it is and how, no matter who's president in any country, this is something that's always going to be talked about, and we're going to have to continue to focus on making this world a better place. Fundação Abrinq, for those that don't know you, is a leading nonprofit organization that aims to defend the rights and the exercise of citizenship for children in Brazil. I want to say a special thanks to all of you from Pace University, especially our kid, the Professor Shu, who's here again with us. It's a pleasure to have all of you here with us, and so thank you again for being here. Talking about the publication, it presents the findings of a comprehensive study conducted with companies of various sizes, aiming to assess how the private sector perceives and addresses social impact. The results offer valuable insight into corporate commitment to sustainability and ESG, as if you don't know, environmental, social, and governance principles, fostering meaningful dialogue on the role of business in driving social transformation, particularly initiatives that benefit children. To begin our discussion today, I would like to invite Sinésio Batista da Costa to the podium. You can read Sinésio's and all of our speakers' bios on our website, but just a few words about Sinésio and his experience. As we saw each other again today, it's like, well, I'm working very hard still, and he continues to fight the good fight in both sides, both countries. But he's got over almost 50-year career in industry. He's always had leadership positions in several foundations, including CNI, CNIF, IASP, Fundação Abrinq. He was the founder and still the president. Also Associação Brasileira da Música, Abrimúsica, and Instituto Brasileiro de Qualificação e Certificação, IQB. He also leads multiple industry unions and certification bodies across sectors, including toys, music, packaging, and children's products. Wow. Sinésio, let me invite you here too. Pleasure to have you back here with us.
Thanks for the word about me. I don't speak English because I have no time to study. I work all day, I work 18 hours a day, and I love it. Sorry about my English. My name is Sinésio Batista Costa, and I'd like to begin by thanking you for all being here, and especially the Brazilian American Chamber of Commerce for partnership and opportunity to hold this event. I would also like to express my gratitude with my darling and my friend Camille Ghibli and Samuel Perrin. Your expertise is exactly what we need to make this event a success. The Abrinq Foundation was created 35 years ago by me and the people from the toy industry in Brazil. And since then, we work to promote and defend the rights of Brazilian children. And we have too much. This is because we believe that every step we take towards a better future for the next generation is a vital investment in building a more just society. By working together, we can build a nation where children can reach their full potential. We believe in that. Thank you.
So we should start our presentation, but I don't want to be alone at the podium, so I'm going to ask to Carmen and Samuel to join me, please. We wanted to change the presentation.
There's clickers right there if you want.
So let's start. Starting. So Abrinq Foundation, the Toy Manufacturing Association, Sinésio is here, and is the president of Abrinq and Abrinq Foundation. And So they decided to, 1919 was the beginning of the foundation. For sure, toys, children, they decided, okay, let's do something. They started a CSR department in Abrinq, and they decided to start this foundation and helping children. So it would be a beautiful mission to promote the defense of rights and exercise of citizenship for children. So it's helping children from 0 to 18. And they decided not to have the children in a small organization, but decided to help other organizations all over Brazil. We have connections with more than 300 NGOs that we support financially and technical support, sometimes gifts in kind, when companies give us products and we send to them. So we are a bridge between those who want to help and those who need help. How we work, developing programs and projects. There are 15 programs and projects nowadays: education, health, and protection. So daycare centers, literacy, remediation, 1,000 days, it's to avoid child mortality. We are all over Brazil. We have 5,500 cities in Brazil, and we are in partnership with 1,400 cities today. Communication nowadays is very important to provide information. So we have some lots of PDFs that we provide for free in our website. So we train people to work with education and health and protection, and everything that we create, it's available to the society. And sometimes we have some campaigns against child labor, in favor of breastfeeding and others, and advocacy. When we started, the new constitution in Brazil was from 1988. So all the rights was supposed to be written in the Estatuto da Criança e do Adolescente, so specific laws to children. So we start there. In our DNA, we have the fight against child labor. There were more 9 million children in child labor in Brazil at that time. Nowadays 1.6, so it's too much, but it's better than when we started. For sure, not only Abrinq Foundation, the government, other NGOs, UNICEF and others. But we still have to be alert, because sometimes they want to change laws that benefits children, and sometimes we need to approve other new ones. Now yesterday our president signed, which we call the Estatuto Digital, so laws to protect children from abuse in the internet. So it's kind of new. It's the president signed. I don't know the name. Sancionou. I don't know the name. The word. Sancionou. So good. Thank you. So it's very important to be aware. We don't receive money from the government. All the money comes from donors, individual donors, companies, and foundations. That's how important to have accountability, to be transparent, and it's more than we have 50,000 individual donors, and I always say it's very important for our sustainability, but it's important because we have an asset, a social asset. So there are people who believe in us and are supporting us more than giving money, but believing that the cause is important. We receive money from other foundations and companies. Companies before the COVID in 2020-22, we are bigger in our budget, but now we have 16%. We are working to go to 25-30% of our budget companies that was in the past, so that's why we are here. And that's why we did the survey to to understand how the companies are thinking about ESG and the social part. Last year, we benefit more than 169,000 children all over Brazil, education, health and protection. 3,000 professionals trained, because as I said, we don't work directly with children, so we train people from education and health. And it's very important, and I always talk about health, because Brazil, we are doing okay compared to some countries in Africa, but we still have 100 children between 0 and 5 years dying every day with preventable causes. So it's very important to know that we still need to improve the health and education in Brazil. 15 programs, as I said to you, and the laws that we monitored last year. So again, about the survey. That's the QR code to the survey, and we're going to have in the end again the QR code if you don't have time to. And for sure, we are talking about ESG, environment, social, and governance. So you didn't print the survey, so you can download this QR code, okay? ESG, nowadays people talk a lot, and it's important about the environment part. But we are asking people to see the importance of the S. So human development to childhood is most decisive phase. The government is important, the society is important, but the companies, they have their role in this future to develop a better environment, talking about people. And the pillar of ESG is supporting children. It's a real positive impact. We sent to 140,000 companies the link for this survey, and we got the answers from the industries, the majority, 32%, and commerce in general, 16%, and other sectors. This mailing is part of our formal donors, actual donors, prospects, so we sent them the link with the survey. And 90% the companies, they know what ESG is, and 89% say that they incorporate the ESG agenda into their business strategy. I think they know what it is, they incorporate, but again, I think there's more in terms of the E and G. Governance is very a strong issue in Brazil. The majority, they say they support organizations, NGOs, 76%. The others, they have their own projects. And I always say to companies, you can use Abrinq Foundations or your social department. You don't need to start your own projects and institutes, but part of them, 20%, they think it's better to create their own projects. And we asked them, why don't you invest more? And they said that because they have financial problems, or not the only reason, but it's a good reason not to invest. And part, I think that they say they help almost 90% of financial donation, and I think part that we can develop a little bit more the companies, and they need to see that it's an opportunity, volunteering. So when they ask their employees to be part of a project, it's very good for them and the image, and I think Carmen is going to talk a little bit about this. So the majority, so it's not exclusive financial, they can do financial, gift in kind, and volunteer. and which issues they want to invest or they prefer to invest: education, environment, and health. As I said, at Abrinq Foundation we work in education, health, protection, and we're not going to be a Greenpeace or other NGOs like TNC or stuff, but we have as a transversal issue the environment. So we have a publication talk about the impact of the climate change on children and other. Here, 90% invest in children and adolescents. So again, it's not they can run projects on more than one issue. So they can run changing the energy metrics. They can invest in children and young people and families. Where the companies are. In Brazil, I don't know if you know a little bit about Brazil, but in the southeast, which we have here, São Paulo and Minas Gerais and Rio de Janeiro, the majority of the companies are there. They have sub-offices in other places, but because of this, we concentrate the corporate social investment actions in those places. Sometimes the company is in São Paulo, here, but they are investing in the northeast, which is the poorest in the north. We have this kind of programs in Brazil. Now we just renewed the partnership with a company who is 22 cities all over Brazil, so we go where they are. Here it's a part of a little bit sad because the investment is not so high, up to 10,000. 10,000 reais is like $2,000. So it's not so much in a year, but we're starting. So it's what they said in the beginning. We don't invest more because we don't have money, but it's possible. And part of we don't have so much options to companies to invest with tax benefits, and sometimes they don't have the programs that they want to support. Sometimes they don't know that they can use this kind of benefits. So just 9% of the contributions are incentive laws. Or connected to culture, sports. We have an activity to raise money, which is the cause-related market. So, okay, if you buy this piece, you're going to give $1 to the NGO that we support. So it's a win-win situation. So you get the product, and the company is going to sell more pieces, and the NGO is going to receive part of this. So only 56% are familiar with this cause-related market activity. On the other side, the majority, 95% of them believe that supporting social causes have a positive influence in their reputation. So doing this, people can see, okay, these companies, they are making money, but they are helping the society, they are helping children, so it's better for the society. The employees, they can feel that they are working in a company who are aware of the problems of the people in their market. Other thing that is really important for us to understand that they have the 96% they trust the work from the civil society. So we have NGOs, companies, okay, let's give money to Abrinq Foundation, and I can't believe they're going to do a very good job. They're going to deliver what we are thinking of. The agreements that we have going to be part of the solution. And 98% they believe that they have part of the responsibility of the social transformation. So putting everything together, they believe in NGOs. They know that it's good for the image. They say that it's a financial problem. So we have a solution, this cost-related market. Putting everything together, we are able to raise money to run the programs and projects. And here we ask them if they know the SDGs, the UN goals, and the countries, they have different standards. In Brazil and Abrinq Foundation have 17 SDGs. We work with 10. There are some standards, for example, education. We need to have 50% of access to daycare centers. Mortality, child mortality. So we have some studies, and they know, 53% know that it exists, and sometimes they engage with this. So the results that, okay, the survey shows that support of companies to social organization, it's a key to social progress. The development of innovative, sustainable is a positive social impact, and the Abrinq Foundation works to connect business. So again, being a bridge between who wants to help and the ones who need help. And we start an activity in partnership for the Childhood Education International. We are talking about education here. So we are inviting like ambassadors or people who are doing well in their professions. They are very well connected. So they are business leaders, so we are inviting them to develop, to look to development of children in Brazil. They don't need to support us financially. It's a volunteer activity, and they can work with us in different, they can do advocacy, they can develop their own projects, they can support our projects. So it's, again, I always says about South Korea, so they invest in education in 20 years, and they change the whole country. So it's important to have this S from ESG, the social pillar of ESG strategy, bringing reputation and visibility to those leaders. We are going to connect these leaders. This leadership is essential to inspire, and we are doing and giving them reports to help them to work with the achievement of the SDGs in Brazil. I can't go places without asking for donations, so that's this QR code connect you to our website, and the last one is the QR code to the publication again. Thank you very much. I want to thank you to my team in Brazil who helped us, the team here in the chamber, and you to being here, and soon to invite all the students from PACE. Thank you very much. Go to the next panel. I know the floor is yours. I just need to change the presentation.
Okay. Do you need them? Are you recording? Do you need the mic for the recording?
Sure.
Somebody on it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carmel Giblin. I'm the CEO of an organisation called the Ethical Supply Chain Programme. We're an international organisation created 20 years ago, initially with the support of the toy industry, which is where I met Sinesio. But we work now in many product categories, so apparel, electronics, footwear, toys, home goods, everything you can think of really. We're a membership organisation, a not-for-profit, but we are companies join us because they have this shared commitment to good business. And my presentation probably builds quite nicely on Victor's, which is, his was about companies' intention to give. And I've been doing this kind of work for too long to know that you cannot rely on companies' intention to give, or governments' intentions to provide aid. We've seen that very clearly with the changes in administration in the US. So my presentation will talk much more about delivering projects that have business benefits to them. And through those business benefits, they are sustainable and scalable, but they positively impact people. So that's the important thing, and that's what we try to do at the Ethical Supply Chain Programme. So I'll go through the presentation. So like I say, we, at our core, we actually are an organisation that provides assurance to companies around the treatment of workers in their supply chain. So particularly think factories in Asia, factories in China, factories in Bangladesh, factories in Vietnam. Whether they're making your t-shirt or your shoes or toys. So our role is to ensure that the workers who are in those facilities are treated well, that their rights are respected and they are fairly rewarded for their work. That there's no instance of child labour, of forced labour, there's no workplace safety issues and so on. So at our very core, that's what we do. We're a not-for-profit organisation, I think I said that, and we operate globally. We have a very, very big footprint in Asia particularly. But we've seen a lot more supply chain diversification over the last few years. So there's much more talk, be it because of political issues or because of environmental concerns. There's a lot more interest in nearshoring, and nearshoring might not be immediately at home, but it might be in the country that's next to you. So you're reducing air freight, marine traffic, etc. Our assessment program, our audit program, is based on international standards. So the ILO conventions, the OECD framework, etc., which means that it's widely accepted and recognised. And importantly, we want to put in place systems and programs that deliver measurable social and business benefits, because that is how they are sustainable and scalable. So that's a little bit about what we do. Particularly today, I'm going to focus on our worker well-being activities, and particularly on one of those, the family-friendly factory program. If any of you are in marketing, you'll know that we don't spend a fortune on marketing, and the family-friendly factory program is not the easiest thing to say. So if anyone's got a genius idea of better brand name for that, then let me know. So we have the family-friendly factory program, which is all about meeting the needs of working parents or caregivers that enables them to stay in work. And there's lots of positive benefits for that, and I'll share some financial benefits around that, particularly for their employer, because their employer will only continue and grow their commitment to these kind of activities if there's money in it, if it has business benefits for them. And that's something, particularly with you guys from PACE, who are the future leaders of our society and corporations going forward. It's really important because we know that donor funding, whilst it's very, very important, it's very unstable. And therefore, for an organisation to build a programme that may take 5 or 10 years to actually deliver, if you're relying on donor funding, you're at risk, fundamentally. So we need donor funding, we need corporate funding, we need many stakeholders to come together to deliver the visions that we have. So, like I say, I'm going to concentrate on the family-friendly factory programme. This was created in direct response to labour standards issues. So going back to our core business, which is to provide assurance to companies around the treatment of workers, so the labour standards in their supply chain. What we were seeing was excessive working hours occurring, and also issues of extensive use of labour brokers. Labour brokers provide temporary staff to factories. That's not a bad thing in itself, but those people are often exploited. So they are paying for their job, maybe it's a form of forced labour. So there's lots of issues that are driven by labour shortages. And when we spoke to the factory owners to understand these spikes in particular instances of non-compliances around labour standards, it came back to the fact that they were dealing with labour shortages. And then we spoke to the workers and we asked them about their intention to stay in that factory. And the number one reason that they shared with us for leaving was related to childcare. And many of them were faced with really extreme choices. Either mind your children and stay at home, or go to work and potentially leave your children in a very vulnerable situation. And I'm talking very young children being left locked into their apartment at home while their parent does at least a 12-hour shift, and they've got no choice because it's that or poverty. So when we spoke to the workers, it became very clear that if we could work with their employers to help them access childcare, that we could move the dial on worker retention and attraction rates, and that would have significant benefits. And it's worked. And I'll share some of the financial significant benefits in a moment. But the Family Friendly Factory Programme has 4 kind of key elements. One is all around policy, so we work with UNICEF to influence the policies that an employer should put in place in the workplace. And that will cover things like parental leave, access to breastfeeding facilities and so on, so a whole range of things. Family-friendly spaces, more of our amazing branding there, but that is our childcare programme, so that's working with factories and communities to establish childcare facilities that workers can access at no charge, so there's no charge for the workers. Parental training, and it's beyond just parental training now, it's also education and caregiver training. So looking at, particularly with our ties to the toy industry, the value of learning through play, for example. We want our childcare centres to not be holding pens for children, but actually places where children are developed, stimulated. They learn social skills as well as academic elements to it. So it's really important. But also when we spoke to parents, they wanted more support in developing healthy, positive relationships with their children. And they may be different in different places. So in China there is a phenomenon of left behind children where workers migrate domestically and they will leave their children in their hometown to be looked after by grandparents, etc. They may only see their children once a year. In fact, I've left some booklets at the back. There's a case study in the booklet at the back where because of a range of issues that are covered in the case study, one mother hadn't seen her son for nearly 3 years. So the distance is extreme, and maintaining positive relationships when you're relying on a phone call or a video call is really difficult. So we have training for parents about maintaining relationships at distance. In Mexico, a lot of the parents were asking us for help in how do they have a conversation with their teenage children about avoiding cartels and drugs and etc. So it's different in different parts of the world. And then we have Family Day, which is just a day where children and their parents are supported by their employers to go do some fun stuff. These are people who do not. Production workers, manufacturing workers are often the lowest paid in the whole of the supply chain. They don't have much spare time. They don't have time, or they don't have the money to pay to go to a theme park with their children, and things that we often take for granted. So creating family days, which might be as simple as taking a group to the swimming pool, a water park, or whatever, is amazing, the benefits that it has. So that's the programme. We've worked predominantly in Asia implementing this programme. and it has had various elements to it. For the Family Friendly Spaces programme, in 2003 we launched an ambition which was to open 100 childcare centres over 3 years and benefit 30,000 children, or 30,000 stakeholders, should I say. And we will achieve that by the end of the year. As we are at the moment, we've opened 95 childcare centres. Those are predominantly in China. In fact, 94 of them are in China. The first one this year opened in Vietnam. 10,000 children have attended those childcare centres, impacting over 11,500 workers, like I say, across Vietnam and China. I'm just going to go through a few slides quickly, which are around the benefits, and again, talking about, we need to, when you're thinking of developing any programme, you need to understand the needs that you're trying to meet and the stakeholders who you are engaging in that. And you need to speak to all the stakeholders to understand what is their motivation and what is the goal that they're looking to address through this. So we speak to workers, we speak to their employers, we speak to children, we speak to the customers of those factories. Often these are brands whose reputation is very tied to their supply chain, even though they don't directly own that supplier. You'll all have seen lots of media coverage, whether it's around your iPhone and Foxconn and the situation of workers in factories in China making your iPhone. Generally for iPhone it doesn't deter us all queuing to get the next one, but for some brands it's a bit more fragile, their relationships. But brands take very seriously their relationships. They have spent millions, if not billions, developing the relationship and the trust that people have in their brand. So they do take it seriously. So we need to understand what the stakeholder perspective is when we're looking at any programme. So for the children particularly, this is an example of one of the kids who joined the programme. She's a 9-year-old girl. Before she had access to childcare, her responsibility was to mind her 2 younger children at home. That's what a 9-year-old should be doing in their summer holidays. And basically they were just locked in a room. So it's a transformational change for this young girl as well as the other 10,000. This one is, again, these case studies are in that booklet, so just buy the copy and please take them, because I'm flying back to London tonight and I don't want the excess baggage. So take one, but it will explain a little bit more about the programme, and it will also share these case studies in a bit more detail. It's in English and Chinese, sorry, not in Portuguese. Yes. But, you know, we're working on Brazil, we'll talk about that. So this is an example. This couple, the son was looked after by the husband's parents, and the daughter was looked after by the mother's parents, and they lived in completely different parts of China. So the only time they have holidays is Chinese New Year, so the mother would travel to see her daughter and the father would travel to see his son. So for more than 2.5 years, as a family, they hadn't been together. And for the first time, this programme enabled them to come together. And then their story goes on because the factory have been so inspired by the deliverables of this programme that they actually lobbied really hard, the Chinese government and the local education department, to get permanent spaces in the local school for their migrant children. There's a rule or a situation in China called the hukou system, which is slowly being changed, but it means that where you are born is where you receive your benefits. So your access to medical care, your access to education is where you are born. So for example, if I was born in Brooklyn, but my parents work in Chicago, I'm picking random places because I don't know my geography of the States very well, but I couldn't go to school in Chicago, so I couldn't go with them because I couldn't get any medical care, I couldn't get any education unless my parents paid for it privately. Now we all know private education is not accessible for many people, and certainly if you're a factory worker on minimum wage, it's not possible. So you have no choice but your children have to stay at home. This factory, and factories are significantly influential in China. Employers are you know, there is a lot that can happen in China. They worked with the local education department to free up spaces for their migrant workers' children to attend, so they can now have education locally. So a massive societal impact beyond what we ever imagined. Employers, we spoke to them, and I'll show the money on this one because I think the money is the most motivational for a lot of people. But what they're saying is this program has made a real change because it is more than giving a gift, which is what kind of sometimes corporate responsibility or programs look like. They're about giving something to someone, and to be honest, it's not really what they need. You know, it's nice, but I'd rather be able to buy the food that I choose than receive a food package, so give me the ways to do that myself. These things are important, but they need to be considered. So, I want to show you just a couple of slides. If we look at this program this factory was the first one when we piloted childcare centres. We started with 2 in 2016. And their turnover rate was 19.7. That's nearly 20% of their workforce changed every year. If we roll that forward to 2004, that's reduced to just over 5%. That's a massive benefit for the company. It saves them a huge amount of money in recruitment costs, in training costs, but also in quality. You're keeping an experienced, skilled workforce. And that's really good for meeting your customers' needs. If we go to this one, workplace injuries. You have a more stable workforce. They know what they're doing. They're also, their relationship with their employer is much stronger. So when they're being asked to wear PPE, and if you've been in a factory in China in the summer, no one wants to wear a face mask. It's hot, it's humid, it's not great. But we insist that they wear personal protective equipment. And they're more likely to do it if we spend time with them explaining the benefits and their health benefits to them. So workplace injury has significantly gone down, and also the recruitment success, which is another measure. So when you're advertising for staff, how are people even interested in coming to work for you? And their success rate in recruitment activities has significantly increased too. But this is the big number. That, for that particular factory, has resulted in $450,000 US saving annually. That is a big, big number. So, you know, give us a percentage of that to reinvest, or you reinvest it yourselves in more childcare. And they're doing it. What this particular factory has done is incredible. They've built social housing for their workers to be able to buy at cost so they can own their own home. They've, like I said, worked with the local education department to increase spaces for migrant children. This is way beyond anything we'd ever imagined in the Family Factory program, but they're doing it because it has significant business benefits. And we measure these and report on them. So for that one factory, it's $450,000 US a year. This is another factory that talks about, again, the benefits in reduced turnover and savings in recruitment and training. It's really important that when you work in a factory, that you're trained properly. You're working with heavy machinery, you're working with chemicals, you're working with things that, you know, you can lose an arm for your life very easily. So having a skilled, safe workforce is really important. And this factory, over 4 years, I think it was, 2021 to 24, has saved $621,000 US. So 2 factories, over $1 million. That makes good business sense. You don't have to be asking anyone to please support this because it's a nice thing to do, it's a good thing to do. That's important too. We all do that. We're motivated because we want to feel good. But if you want long-term, sustainable societal change, you have to find the business benefit for it. And these are clear. And then Lego. Most of you will have played with Lego, I'm sure, at some point in your lives. Maybe still do. But this, Lego is one of our big funders. Obviously a big corporate, but they're a really good example of Lego have a very tiny supply chain, less than probably 30 suppliers to Lego, because they own their own operations, so they make their own products themselves. But they have invested through us over $1 million in driving this program to other suppliers because they see the benefits in society. The other benefits is that if you raise up society, as we would say in China, but if you improve communities, even if they're not directly your workers, you are investing in your future customers. So these are the people that are going to be buying Lego or buying your, and I always say this wrong, I don't know if it's Adidas or Adidas, but whatever they may be. Nike I should go with, it's easier. But these are your future consumers as well, so that's really important. We have this 3-year ambition. We are, in 2026, we will announce our new ambition, which is to move from benefiting 30,000 children to a much bigger one. And we can do that because of the data that's shown from this program. So our new ambition will be to support 1 million families over the next 5 years. It was tied in, I think Victor talked about the UN Sustainability Development Goals. They were meant to be achieved by 2030. They won't be. And this is maybe the challenge for you guys to carry forward as you move into the corporate world or whichever path you follow. But we are way off achieving these Sustainable Development Goals. They need to be achieved if we are to have a more fair, equitable, and decent planet and society for us all. So SDG is really important, and we will do our bit to support them. This is just a little bit about the relationship that we have with the Abrinq Foundation. Brazil is not an area that we have worked in historically. Abrinq, Victor shared with you a lot about their work. We see them as a great partner. So we hope that in the future we will work together more formally, and we will share with them our insights and expertise from the Family Friendly Factory program, and they will implement that as options in Brazil, which will be fantastic. There is a huge need in Brazil. There is a huge population, so it's very attractive to corporates as well who want to develop the consumer in Brazil. So we're very excited to work with Abrinq on this going forward and support their I can't even say it, Empresa Amiga da Criança.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
And that's it. So again, my email's there, our company website's there. Have a look if you want to know more about us, and please take the booklet at the back. It's one each. There's not even one each, and it will save me excess luggage because I may have been shopping while I was in New York. Thank you very much.
In the end of the presentation, we're going to sign our agreement, and they're going to open to questions, okay? Samuel.
Good morning, especially the college students who got up particularly early, probably for college students, to come here this morning. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for the invitation this morning, and I just want to spend a few minutes talking about Love Together Brazil, which, consistent with the Chamber of Commerce right now, all of our, or 99% of our efforts are focused in Brazil, and really build on some of the stuff that Carmel and Victor talked about how hard it is to do nonprofit work, and some of the things that we've been able to do to be successful over the last 10 years when you look at this and really play into the ESG and figuring out how hard it is to actually get money from corporations or money from individuals to support your efforts, regardless of how meritorious you think they are and how important they are, not only for the individual communities that you're dealing with, but really for the health of the country and the health of the global society. Love Together Brazil has been around for about a dozen years, and really, I'm not going to read you the slide, you can see it. We're all about providing services to the northeast portion of Brazil, the Sertão region, specifically areas around Pianco. We'll get into some statistics later, but this is an area of extreme poverty where you'll see the basic original function of Love Together Brazil was simply to provide clean drinking water to the community there, which clearly would be the basis for leading to more sustainable living conditions, including agriculture, including manufacturing, including all the various expectations, whether you're in the US or France, that you need for a community to survive, and things that people in America and in France take fully for granted. As you can see here, our impact over those dozen years, really providing fresh, clean water to over 150,000 people. You know, a lot of what then got built up, once you provide drinking water, once you provide the ability for these communities to survive, you can then start getting into things that will help them thrive. Education, medical, things like that. And that's where we've expanded our mission somewhat to opening up a school, to, you know, supporting a hospital, and as you'll see a little bit later on, our new project to try to give people things to do with their free time rather than just move around. And so really, you start off with the water, you move to the healthcare, you move to the education, and then you can move to some of the other benefits, which again, it's hard to imagine until you go down there, which I've been down there, to understand the types of conditions that there are parts of the world where people live in, you know, the conditions where people in parts of the world live in. And, you know, Carmel, I think, is intimately familiar with this stuff, much more so than I am, given that she's seen it in multiple places around the world. Talking earlier about Pianco, you could see it's a small region, small city, the region down here, but this is really the population that we're talking about. And again, one of the objectives of Love Together Brazil, and what I didn't mention at the beginning is we are a 100% volunteer organization, and we are supported wholeheartedly through whatever fundraising we can do. And you know, we have our president back there, Geraldo Seraf, who, you know, initiated the U.S. organization in affiliation. We have offices in Sao Paulo and in New York, and everybody here is a volunteer. My full-time job is a hedge fund guy, is in investment management. So to me, this is, you know, a labor of love and what we try to do. And it is one of the difficulties, as Victor and Carmel talked about trying to get financial commitments. A lot of times you have to rely on goodwill and really finding a project that you are committed to and spending your time doing it. And that's what I talk about. You really need people who are going to believe in the project that you're doing. It's why we have been so successful. It's why we've been able to put together an organization that on very limited funding has been able to deliver the services and meet the objectives that we've set forward. And hopefully, as you build this, you accelerate. Obviously, with every organization, the COVID years set back the efforts to grow, where you get a little momentum and then you basically had a world shut down, where you then had to take a step back, whether it was in the factories or in some of the other organizations. It was extremely, extremely hard to build. Then you have to get your momentum going again. And you know, fortunately, that's where we think we are, and we hope to continue moving forward, building those basic building blocks for the people. As I said, volunteers. It's real hard to get people like me, like Geraldo, with full-time jobs who are looking to do this, to do all the work, which is why, as you can see here, we've been very successful. All of the kids you see here are a little bit younger than you. They're mostly high schoolers, a couple of college kids, maybe a couple of kids younger, but they've been extremely helpful and effective in garnering support, whether it's from donors, whether it's from corporations, to working with them, because they sort of see kids and they say, hey, this is going to be a good effort. These are all American kids, by the way. These are not the Brazilian kids that we are primarily helping. So they could be any of you, whether you're doing it here, you go back to France, you do it, or any of our adults. Definitely take advantage, or we found it very advantageous to take advantage of helping children by also using some of these privileged children to help us get to where we want to be. And really, this is where you get into it, where you can see the difference that we're able to make, where if you look at the numbers up there, whether it's in reais, I always mess up that word, reals, hihas, hahas, or whether you look at it in dollars, what we've been successful at is getting in-kind contributions from corporations, something that Victor talked about earlier, where you get the donations in kind. A large part of our effort is building wells. We had contributions of the equipment, the labor, the heavy equipment. When we're building a school, we're getting donations of the concrete, the supplies for the school, the food that we use to feed the students. When we're building a hospital, we're getting donations of healthcare goods, beds, sheets, imaging equipment. That we found has been much more successful for us than just going out to people saying, hey, please give us $100,000, please give us 100 hey-has, and to do that. And that's really, when you look at it, 100% of what we do, the cash goes into it, but that's really just a conduit to helping us go out and get in kind. And we found that that has been sort of our sweet spot. And right now we're in the process of our biggest project, trying to build a community center in the town of Pianco. And I apologize if you're getting feedback on this, I can't tell from over here. That a lot of that, or basically all of it, is in-kind donations. Where you see the foundation, we're getting that cement, those supplies donated. And that's really on the ground, whether it's here, companies in the US, or companies in Brazil, making that commitment to provide that material. And I would say it's what differentiates us a lot from many of the charities that we see up here, where they're basically knocking on your door asking you for a financial contribution. And it sometimes becomes hard. Certainly during the COVID times, it was impossible. During the COVID times, people actually had a lot of extra supplies laying around because they weren't able to use them. So we actually were able to take a good advantage of that. As you see down here, you know, the land, the construction start, and the total invested in construction at this point to get this community center up and running. Here we go. So these are drawings. This is unfortunately not the finished product yet. We're probably about a third of the way through. We hope to do it, but as I said, it is a project that moves ahead as quickly or as slowly as we can get the donations that we need to do it. And again, that's the crux of our effort. If we get financial donation, we do run a couple of cash fundraisers. I don't want to pretend like we're only doing this in kind, because that's almost impossible. We move forward and we buy it and we keep it going that way. And so far, we've been very fortunate through efforts of someone like Geralda Seraf, who is 100% Brazilian, though she lives up here now. As you can tell, I am not Brazilian. The community center that we're talking about is a large property, but nothing compared to what you'd see here in the US or back home in Paris. It's a very modest building, but given the density of the population, the poverty that goes on there, with this facility, we can affect 5,000 lives. And 5,000 lives for the necessary investment and the effort is a scale that it becomes very hard to imagine until you see it in person. And really, that's what we're all about. We're trying to do these smaller projects which have a huge benefit. Clearly not changing the world the way Carmel is doing, because I think, you know, her efforts are, you know, on a scale that we at Love Together Brazil could never meet. And certainly not on the scale that Victor and the rest of the Abrinq people are doing this globally and hitting everything. We are very focused on one area, very focused on one type of help. And I think the three of us together, different objectives, but we're all working towards the same thing. And really goes back to, and I think this is a good assortment of, you need to do something positive in the world. You're going to go out, you're going to make a bunch of money, you're going to have great families, you're going to be really successful, but at the end of the day, you've got to find something where you feel at the end of the day you've contributed back. It's just not about you. And I apologize to the other people who have their careers already. I know you're doing this already, otherwise you wouldn't be here today. But I think when we have all of our Pace University students, I think it's important to make sure that's clear to them. I think they know it already. Here you go, under construction. This fortunately is about a year ago, so we are well past that. And you know, not going to do a marketing bid for you, though if any of your families are in the construction business, we would love to take some contributions down in Brazil. No one's smiling, so I guess no one's in the construction business. As seen in the media, one of the other things that we try to do, which definitely helps with the corporate image, as Carmel mentioned earlier, a lot of these companies, and actually Victor mentioned, a lot of them have invested millions or billions, and I apologize, I forget which one said it, in their corporate image. And being affiliated with someone like Love Together Brazil, we've taken advantage of that publicity efforts, where we do a lot of social media. We'll run some events. Here you have Brazilian Vogue, some other magazines which I'm personally not familiar with, but I'm told they're very high-end. Obviously fashion sells very well, certainly in Brazil, and that has certainly been extremely helpful to getting and appealing to the corporate market. So again, when you're doing this, keep your mind open, come up with new ideas. People love new stuff, whether it's business or this type of fundraising things. And it's one of the parts, and Geralda has told me all about Abrinq and how they've been extremely creative in what they've done and the types of projects they've been involved in. And that's why we really value our affiliation with them in Brazil, because they're the 800-pound gorilla who is really making things change down there. We invite you to be part of our story. It is certainly an interesting story, one that we figured out how to focus on one area and look to move things forward. Clearly not as long a story as Victor or Carmel, but I think that what we're looking to do is be on the ground where we see it the same way when Carmel goes into a factory where they've had a success rate. We can go down, as I've been down to Bianco, and see the impact, see the change that it's caused. And again, that's really what I think this whole effort is really about how we can help move society forward, how we've tried to help the northeastern part of Brazil, again, one of the poorest areas in the country, one of the poorest areas really in South America, and provide them some of the basics. And you see the efforts. It takes a while. The first few years, it was not something where you would see what was going on. You would not see the impact. Now you go down there, and it is really different, where you can look at our website and you'll see the hundreds of wells that have been built through these efforts, and really the life-changing impact that it's going to have. So, it's a shorter story, so I turn the mic back over to you, Victor, to see if there's anybody who has any questions for any of us.
Thank you. To open to questions. There is one for me and the other one to them.
I'll give him a microphone. Get it to him. He looks way too concerned. Is it? Anything.
I don't know.
Who's going to win the World Cup? Ask him that. Brazil or France? This is Brazil or France. Who's going to win the World Cup this year?
We're not going to be doing France.
It's not going to be Brazil.
So we can, I think, can we check the
Maybe from each one of you, if you can give the audience an idea how to get started. I think we have some people who are more
Established.
experienced, but they have guys that they're just getting started with. They're still in school. But when is the right time to start getting involved with the non-for-profit part of somebody's life? And how do you do that? How did you do that?
Sure. As you said, Will, it's a different part of your life. In America, one of the beautiful things is there's a thing called the college application, and they love to see you involved in nonprofits. Fortunately, when I was in college and even earlier than you, it wasn't that. I think it really is something that we encourage, or I encourage my kids to get involved with as early as possible. My children have been involved with Love Together Brazil since they were about 10 years old, so about 10 years now. And it again, depending on where you come from, I think it provides perspective and it provides an idea and a motivation for how that child wants to move forward. I think in the last 10 years, we've seen some of the children who've been involved with Love Together Brazil go out and find something else that they're interested in. Some of them started their own organizations. But I think certainly when you're in college, as well as many of you are, find something you're passionate about, and you certainly have enough free time in college. I've been there, I know what it's like. You'll spend your time studying, you'll spend your time going to class, but you definitely have that time. Cut down on the party for 1 hour a week and go do some type of charitable work or some type of organization. There's a lot of them out there, and if you don't find one that fits exactly what you want to do, go out and try to start something on your own. It'll give you good experience for starting your own business later in life. But again, there are so many organizations out there who provide so many opportunities for so much exposure and experience in a variety of things as early as possible. So I would say, for this side of the room, which definitely looks more experienced, I'm sure they've done it. Otherwise, as I said, they wouldn't be here. For this side of the room, I'm sure some of you are already doing it. And for the ones who aren't, shame on you, but never too late to start.
I just add to that, there's a guy that some of you may have heard of called Matt Friedman. He's American but based in Asia, in Hong Kong. He has spent his life fighting modern slavery. A really inspirational guy, done amazing work at field level. But you might be familiar with the phrase or the term, be the change you want. So, be the change you want in society, or whatever it may be. He was the guy who created that thinking. And he wrote a book all around that. And I'd encourage, certainly, for you guys still in studying, to read that book, because it helps you think through what is it you really care about. And yeah, I think lives are just so much richer if we have, whether it's our work, and it might influence the work path you follow, as well as what you might do, as something that is more personal and related to corporate or related to volunteering or whatever. But yeah, I think with all of us, inside there is something that we really care about, but it can be quite difficult to find out what it is. So it could be providing water, it could be literacy, it could be all sorts of things. But I really encourage you to look at this guy Matt Friedman, because he's got some amazing insights that I think will help answer that question.
To be part of your resume and to be open some door in the future.
Go on. So from the standpoint, of, we've had panels with the Brazil Chamber recently that have talked about AI, have talked about cybersecurity, and it feels like corporates really intuitively grasp the risks of both adopting these technologies, but more so falling behind, other parts of the world in terms of their adoption. From the standpoint of a community that has under 20% employment, and from the standpoint of conversations about Brazil at a larger scale, about how there's the untapped workforce and the natural resource being incredible GDP drivers if they can only be harnessed. You, Carmel, pointed to specific examples of a factory that's able to improve its business outcomes just by incorporating more sustainable business practices. So, of course, it's a little bit of a jump to talk to a given factory versus an entire country's economy. But what do you think is the gap between the risk perception of falling behind on these major technological advancements versus shoring up your entire country's economy and for the better of the systematic long-term growth of the entire ecosystem?
So I'm not a very tech-savvy person, but I do think AI is something that is an incredible opportunity for particularly lower income, less developed communities around the world. I watched actually something while I was here about a lot of the AI tools that we all, you see them marketed now to kind of, which makeup should I buy or whatever it is, and we're all, and I'm sure you guys are doing it, but it used to take me a long time to think about writing an article for a publication. I now just pop a few words into ChatGPT or whatever it may be, and I get the outline of it back in seconds. So that technology is very accessible to all of us, but it's not accessible to everyone around the world. And I think there is a huge opportunity through things like the community centre in Bianco, to make that kind of technology available to people, because they will have the greater benefits from it. I think corporates will embrace it and will move it forward. There's a bit of are we scared about it? Because I honestly believe some jobs won't exist. Well, I'm sure they won't exist through AI, but there will be great opportunities that come from it too. So I'm not an expert, but I know strategically within our business, we're asking the question, how can we reduce the cost of the core of our business, which is labour standards? You know, we look at millions of data points around wages, working hours, machine production, working times, etc. Surely AI can do all that more efficiently. And we can put our resources then, which are very skilled, into different areas that actually lift communities up. So, but I do think we need to make those tools more accessible and find community initiatives where we can deploy them. I think that's really important.
I think in Brazil we have 250 million cell phones for 200 million people. So we have more cell phones than people. So the access after the COVID crisis is amazing. So the problem is to help them how to use this device to develop their lives. So I think it would be, and I think Don Cabral is work with, so we need to help them. It's more connected to education and income, and the opportunities will be there.
But I think just to add on that, we need to think about them at a much more local level to make sure that they're accessible and it's not even like it's accessible in Portuguese, but it's accessible in the local dialect or the local language, and is it relevant to what their challenges are? You know, this program I saw, which was about providing an AI tool for farmers in very remote parts of Africa. You know, big brands have invested huge amounts of money in that, but it's not accessible to all people because they may have the phone, but they don't have internet. So there's all sorts of restrictions on it, and I think it's really important that we take the big technology and the accessibility of that, but think much more local.
That's right. I'm sorry. May I add a little bit? The training development definitely is very important part of the whole process, and that tapping into the World Bank help, etc. But without the training development, nothing is going to happen nicely.
I would ask. Okay. Thank you so much. It was really, really inspiring to listen to each of you. All of them very interesting projects and very successful projects on each way. Camila, I would like to ask you, is there any kind of certification for the companies that take part of your initiative? And whether you also have efforts towards, you're talking about a supply chain. So basically we have at the top of the chain, the ultimate client that is purchasing goods, us, for example, and we would like to know what are the companies that, how do they handle the social aspects, and so can we please address?
So yes, we do. We certify both the labour standards and then for programs for factories who go beyond the basics. So the basics are your workers are paid properly, they work in safe conditions, etc. So we certify that factories meet that standard, and that is publicly available, and they have a certificate that they put on their wall, and it's renewed every year. For those that go beyond the basics and implement programs like Family Friendly, then we have an assessment methodology that we've developed with UNICEF, and then we award and recognise the factories that are doing more. So yeah, they become workplaces that are recognised as being family friendly. So yeah, that recognition is really important, and it enables. We're more of a business to business. So we deal with Disney or we deal with Superdry or whoever it may be. They then tell their consumers about what they're doing to be socially responsible. People now, younger people, are much more concerned about the impact of their purchasing, whether it's on environmental impact or social impact. regulation, and I'm probably not in the home of regulation right now, but but no, regulation generally is increasing in the US and in Europe. And for organisations like me, we actually welcome it, because when I was in the corporate world, we try and do everything we can to reduce regulation because it's seen as a burden. But when the world needs to be better, regulation helps. And what you will see in Europe is a requirement that's coming in, it's already in place, but it will increase in more categories. It's called a digital product passport. For those guys in France, you may be aware of it. But the digital product passport will mean that on any item that is sold in Europe, on the label or the tag or whatever, there'll be a QR code that you scan, and that will tell you all the background of that product. So it will list the traceability, so you'll be able to see where it's come from, so the environmental credentials of that, but also the factory that it was produced in, the product, everything. So the communication direct to the consumer is only going to increase in the future, and that's really helpful for organisations like us. It's really helpful because it also expands your budget. You're not talking any longer about a compliance cost, which most businesses try to reduce, but you're talking about a marketing opportunity. So when I buy this shirt, I can scan it and I can know that whether it's cause-related marketing and they're giving $1 from each purchase back to the cotton farmers that are making it, or I can see that actually this is using less water in its production than something else. Consumers care about it, and the digital product passport is going to be really helpful.
What's the rollout for that?
It started in Europe. I think it has different, I can't remember which is already in place, but you will see brands in the UK. I'm talking very limited market here now, but there are brands. Does anyone know Tesco, the retailer? Sure. So Tesco, the retailer, has launched the digital product passport for some of their categories. There's a UK brand, apparel brand called No Peace Child. They have launched them as well, and it will just become normal.
Who approves what goes into that project? Is there an independent agency or?
Yeah, so you can do more than that, which is why I'm saying, because the other thing, so you have sustainability means that there's less packaging. Every company is trying to reduce the packaging. If you look at the toy sector as an example, packaging was excessive because it was all about getting place on shelf, and you wanted your doll or your pram or your building set to be big. So packaging was a huge overuse in the toy sector. It's for environmental reasons and cost saving reasons. They are significantly reducing the packaging. Then though, how do you tell your story? How do you get your space on shelf, and how do you directly communicate to the consumer? You'll do it through digital marketing. So now when we're starting to talk to people about the budgets for activities like compliance, we're going, actually let me talk to your marketing people, because now they are interested in telling the story through the digital product passport. So I think it's a big opportunity. And it will come to the States, no doubt. Because, it will, because you're not going to create that technology. Most of the companies that we're dealing with, whether it's Disney, Coca-Cola, whatever, they're not going to do something just that works in Europe. They're going to do something that is global, because it doesn't make sense to do something that's just for some country. So you will see it, and I think it's a great thing for consumers. Consumers want to be. None of us have the time to go on a website and check each corporate's kind of commitment to things that we might care about. Whereas the digital product passport will make all that information very accessible.
Thank you to all three of you for a wonderful presentation. I'm Ken Bardak. I teach at Fundação Abrinq in Brazil. And Carmel, you used two cases to show profitability, which I thought were very helpful. And my question is to all three of you to ask if any of you have cases to show best practices or worst practices in your field that can be used in the classroom as a way of helping students best understand good practices to achieve ESG.
We do. So we have case studies, and I'm happy to share them to you. There's a lot of information on our website, and if there's more than that that's useful, we have no end of data. So if there's any of you that are looking for a specific challenge in terms of how does an investment in X, what does it do, then just send me an email as well.
That's why I'm going to sign an agreement with them. They have lots of experience, and we work directly with children, but not directly with companies. So we're going to add this part, showing them that's profitable and it's better for the whole society. So that's we're going to do this.
Thank you.
And I'm going to invite Sinésio to be with us to sign the agreement with Carmel.
You will receive any check.
And the photographer, please.
Oh, wow. You held this back from your presentation, right? You better sign it today. That's great. That was a great presentation. You guys are lucky to be affiliated.
Yeah, I think as I said, this agreement really is just about formalising how we work together, and we don't do much in Brazil. We don't do much we don't do anything in Brazil, but Abrinq Foundation do incredible work in Brazil. So I think bringing our two expertises together will really help. So yeah, excited.
Carmel, thanks for believing in us. In 35 years, we have more than 10 million kids in that country, but we need to make more. And we need your help.
Always.
My rich friends don't answer anymore when I call. But I call with his wives, and I receive the money at the same time.
It was a nice man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, church.
I'll try to push these next time.
I make signing really difficult because I'm left-handed, so everything has to be more space.
Carmel, welcome and help us.
Thank you all. You have 5 minutes more if you have questions.
Well, I want to thank everybody again for being here. Congratulations to the great panel. Congratulations on the agreement. It's the history in the making here at the chamber. We have a lot of food still, coffee, so please help yourselves. Let's make a little networking sessions here, because now you know who you're talking to and what you can ask. Maybe you prefer to ask privately. Again, thanks for being here with us. Professor, always great to see you.